Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Monday, September 24th. We are quickly approaching October. I kind of figured that this would happen, where my falling behind would really catch up to me in September, and at the end of the year, things are just speeding through this month. September is kind of a nothing month, as it seems to me. Of course, lots of things are happening. It's just the one thing that isn't happening is me recording more content that I would like to be recording. Let's see, where are we? Don't have to deal with the tavern brawl. Don't really need to do anything other than play some warrior class and some priest class. Alright, so let's hop into that and then we'll start covering the news. Let's go out of the wild. My mouse is falling apart. I think I literally have just worn out my Logitech, what is it, a 550 is the keyboard and mouse combo mouse. I've just worn it out and I need to order a new one. It's just very sluggish, and I'm fairly certain it's not the hard mouse pad that I use, because while that is rather greasy looking, I just don't feel like that's the issue. Because I guess if it were an issue, I could put the mouse in a different section of the mouse pad and things would work differently, and it really doesn't seem like it does that. The only thing that it could be, as we jump in the game here, is that perhaps Windows 10's update has done something to my mouse, but no, I don't think so. That this was an issue that was happening before any of the updates came out. The other thing is my side project of building a box to put in a Raspberry Pi computer with the touchscreen and several other adapters, plugs, power connectors, cords, things to really make it an interesting, like, little portable computer device. It has taken a lot of toll out of my hands, a lot of hacksawing bolts, a lot of cutting wood. While the wood is very thin, soft wood, it is also just a level of precision and carefulness is required, because I'm not particularly skilled at any kind of construction or hardware work and don't have the right tools. In fact, I tried to drill something with a drill bit that I had worn down and completely lost any kind of sharpness on, and even on incredibly soft wood, it was failing to cut at all. Let's see. Do I want to play this next turn? Like, I can play this, but then it's almost certainly gonna die, so let's just wait. But it's put blisters in my hand, so my hand doesn't feel too great. That being said, I still powered through it and did 3 hours of recording trying to get back into Borderlands 2. There's some issues with getting back into Borderlands 2 in that it feels like I'm going back from being 30 hours into the game to being closer to 3 hours in the game with my, like, muscle memory with that game. There's a lot of, we're at a point that is in the late part of Borderlands 2 that is very forgettable, and I had kind of totally forgotten it existed, and that's not a good thing for that game. That tells me that this section's probably not that interesting, which will probably just encourage me to speed through it, which was the idea in general. I spent probably close to an hour and a half, if not more, simply playing the Finks Slaughter Dome, which was the equivalent of the several places in the first game where you're just in an arena fighting enemies. The difference this time is I think there's really only one arena area in the entire game like that. I don't think I'm gonna come back and have to do 5 rounds fighting animals. So it's pretty. There are enough animals in the game for there to bend something like that, but I don't think they bothered to do that. And as far as enemies, I don't think there's enough humanoid enemies to make a second collection of people to fight in the arena setting. I think the arena settings in both Borderlands 1 and 2 were unnecessary add-ons. The entire game definitely could use excuse me, the entire game could use some editing, and so in Borderlands 3, if they told me that, hey, this time you get infinite inventory, or you can play that way if you choose, this time you don't have to ever do any arena stuff because we realized that stuff was not helpful or interesting how that turned out, but okay, guess that worked. Yeah, the whole game could be sped up. Borderlands 2 in a weird way is still stretching itself out with its golden keys still coming out, trying to get people to play. Redeeming a golden key, you only have like 5 days to redeem them, so like they put one out every 15 days, I would say, and as soon as one expires they may wait a week and then they give you another one just to keep people playing. I'd hate to meet the person who's been playing Borderlands 2 since launch and never really stopped. You would have almost certainly have had to played every single character at least 3 times through. Like there's 6 different character classes. And the golden keys really ruined the game too. Like instead of living in the realm of greens and blue rarity guns, and I'm stuck with the purple ones that come out of the golden keys, and no gun can top them. No gun comes anywhere close. So every single gun you pick up, which is the only loot in the game, is immediately rejected. So I've gotten to the point where I'm just like, you know what, I'm not even gonna look at these guns, I'm just gonna toss them. I'm just gonna sell them for money. And then the money system falls apart because there's nothing to do with money except for gamble at the slot machines, where it's getting increasingly longer to gamble at the slot machines because I'm getting more money and the cost of the slot machines is only going up a little bit. It's not going up as much as you would want. Be reborn in the curse! But I got into Borderlands 2, and so I'm recording. I need to make, I suppose, 15 to 20 episodes of Borderlands 2 to fill out November, and then I need to decide whether I'm doing anything else in November or not.
So many options.
A weird thing happened today is that on my channel, Bejeweled, I think it's Bejeweled 3, actually aired on my channel, and I've completely forgotten I'd recorded that. And that's kind of a weird series because I played it and from the very beginning said, well, this is only going to be this number of episodes because it has to fit in this time slot to fill in a gap between now and October, and so I knew from the beginning I was not going to do all of Bejeweled 3 at 100%, which worked out very well. I got lucky there because a lot of Bejeweled 3 was boring. Real boring. The general concept's cool enough, but you really would have had to like the gameplay of Bejeweled to continue to play it, and I didn't particularly like the gameplay. Let's start covering the news though. Gamma Sutra, Blizzard's Diablo series tapped for a possible Netflix show. Also, Netflix says that the Minecraft video game is still they're still committed to that, so I would assume that one way or the other they're going to get some other people other than Telltale to make a Minecraft story mode video game. In a weird way, I guess I was Netflix licensing a license, because really Netflix should have just gone straight to Mojang and Microsoft and said, we want a Minecraft story mode like game in our experience. Like that's all that. Man, this mouse. Let's see. Let's just pick that. Like I'm really gonna have to just order a new mouse and get it. I can't put it off anymore. This mouse is dying on me. And I think what I probably did is I dropped it. I've dropped this mouse so many times, and I think it's just knocked some chip loose. Like, it's definitely not the batteries. I've changed the batteries multiple times. So yeah. Deal 3 damage to all other minions? Sure.
Meddlesome insects.
Play
You
this.
are the Shadow's puppets.
Tortola, preserve us!
We've got a game on Steam called Spellrune Realm of Portals. Let's see, it seems like it is a card building RPG style of game. It says it's roguelike role-playing elements in a fantasy world. What's weird is it's 42% positive with 21 users, which is weird because this looks nice. If I had seen this game before I saw those reviews, I'd put it on my wishlist and say, like, this looks cool. So what's the problem? It's an early access game. It's 10% off for $8.99. It says it has hundreds of unique cards. Let's see.
I wonder.
Shells up!
Beware the Shadows.
Okay, so the first negative review says, shameless ripoff of a good game, Slay the Spire. The game is utter trash. It copied all the following from Slay the Spire. Layout, GUI, map format, post-battle rewards, elixir potions, relics, enemy intent, upgradable cards, mini-bosses, shop, and layout, fire players soon, question marks. The only thing new is they added 3 characters to choose from. You get to choose one of 3 offensive types and one of 3 defensive types. Typically this accounts for 9 combinations, but it really doesn't add that much. The cards and characters aren't nearly as deep, they're just the same thing with slightly better stats. So, where do you go with ripoffs? That is, I guess, a valid question to ask here. Is the next not recommended says complete ripoff of Slay the Spire. Here's one, don't buy this unfinished game. Slay the Spire is the same concept with good execution and balance. The game is unbalanced, easy as can be, and constantly freezing at the reward screen, which requires an Alt F4. So yeah, apparently there is a certain level on Steam where if you just blatantly rip something off, that's not acceptable. I'm a little surprised that that's the case in the video games. But maybe there's just too much here to overlook. Let me go click on Slay the Spire for comparison, which is recommended. Slay the Spire is also in early access. It's very positive, 93% of 599 user reviews in the last 30 days.
The light shall bring victory.
The graphics look slightly better. I guess maybe that's just the thing, is that you cannot directly 100% copy things, and I'm not even sure they really did. But it's just too close. And we've gone many times. I've complained about cheap Chinese knockoffs of games and other products. Many times I've complained about
Job's done.
About asset flips and clones, and some first-person shooter that really is just ripping off PUBG. Maybe the video game audience has just gotten a little tired of it. Maybe we'll start to see more PUBG and Fortnite clones getting marked down for being bad clones of good games. That being said, on the other hand, Fortnite is totally a Battle Royale clone, and PUBG is totally a Battle Royale clone. So all of these cloning was acceptable very recently, but apparently maybe they've hit a tipping point. Speaking of cheap asset first-person shooter looking games, we have a game on Steam called Mark of the Robot, which has a terrible UI and low quality graphics, and it seems like just asset flipped environments with no enemies. I've noticed that is also a growing trend of seeing games that don't bother to show the enemies at all. This Mark of the Robot is free to play, so at least they're not asking for any money for it. Let's see. I have a game on Steam called The Loathing Heart. Psychological, emotional experience. You have to protect your heart from getting harmed. This, I thought, was a game I already covered, so I probably clicked on this a second time. And I really hate the mentality around these games. It's like, it's kind of a nicely animated bullet hell dodge idea, but it's wrapped around a bunch of emotions and things that I'd say the people who developed the game around this concept are mental wimps, not willing to hear any criticism. And so if you're, as a video game critic, if I was to try and criticize a game around the concept of protecting your heart from things happening to it, from it to suffering any sorrow, they probably would come back and DMCA or complain or whine or accuse me of harassing them. Loathing Heart is 16% off for $2.51. There's probably a few games on my wish list that I think I need my audience to warn me on. Two things I need to take off my wish list specifically because the developers of those games have false flagged people and false DMCA'd people in the past, and I'm not willing to reward that kind of behavior with coverage. Next we have a game on Steam called Apartment 3301. Congratulations, you found the application test. You are trapped in a locked apartment and must find clues on how to escape. And so this is, well, a nicely looking game. It's still probably just an asset flip. I don't even know if it's really a horror game or if it's really just a trapped in a room game. So often those are the one and the same. It seems like they're putting carpets on the wall. There are no user tags except for strategy. It's $2.99. You would think this might also have been a VR game. And the one review says this is simply an unfinished product. Interactive cues appear too soon or in strange places. They don't always reappear when they're popped up the first time. Interaction uses both E and left mouse button. Looking around is restricted up to certain vertical levels for no reason. Some parts are too dark. There's walking speed only. Even if the cursor doesn't make sense, this shouldn't be anything but free to play, according to the one review, and it's $2.99. Even not seeing that recommendation, when you're shown a game on Steam and all the screenshots are just literal pictures of a room with no enemies and no UI and no interaction and no gameplay elements at all it leaves me with the idea is that I'm going to be walking around the room, which is not enough to make me want to play a game like that. Not enough by far. Charge. Or rush. Next we have a game on Steam called Fruit Pop. I think we already talked about this. I went to what's on Steam and opened up some older things. This is an older one we've already covered. It's free to play, but it's just like a reverse Peggle from the top game. Still probably not worth playing. Apparently what's on Steam has not kicked in today, so there's nothing since September 22nd as far as games to cover, so most of my news is going to be related to not actual games that have come out. Maybe Steam took the weekend off. I wouldn't be 100% surprised if that is exactly the case. And they literally didn't let any games on. The only other issue would be
Speak to me.
The yeah, unless the What's on Steam app Twitter page for some reason got shut down or slowed down or something. I would assume it's just an API thing. I kind of assume it's just an API thing.
Let me change your mind.
They need to update their API key to access Steam or something. We have this game on Steam that is probably a troll game, like almost certainly. Called Oops, I Slept With Your Mom. Baby lost mommy when baby was too young to remember mommy's face, but baby remembers how warm and cuddly sleeping in mommy's hug felt. Now baby has to sleep with all the mommies in order to find mommy. It could be any mommy. It could be your mom. But what I'm looking here is it seems like this is just a random assortment of MS Paint graphics and mini games. Like clearly they were building a game here towards the name of it. It's 10% off for $1.79. And it's, yeah, the only game by this developer according to the name that they're going under now, but almost certainly it's some troll developers put dozens and dozens of other games on Steam. It's usually how it always comes down to. At least that's what I suspect is happening, is that they just create a new identity over and over again. This is weird. Since when were you able to make your own symbols? There's a game here that is one and then what looks like a boot and then what looks like two skis crossed over to make an X and then one. But somehow they have made that a clickable font of some sort. So I don't know. Is this some new emoji thing that I'm not aware of or what? Because that's kind of strange.
Bring the pain.
See, this is going to take the whole things. It says this game has 14 levels, which each level is increased complexity. What this is I believe a skiing simulator 2D style game. Very simplistic looking game. Yeah, you start off on a jump and you seem to have only minimal control after that initial launch of doing spins and such. Let's see, this game is 33% off for 66 cents. But you can't even name it. It's, at best I would call it 1x1, but because it's using an emoji symbol, you couldn't even find it even if you wanted to. So they've outplayed themselves as making their game completely unsearchable on the internet. Let's go ahead and play that. And take that. Next we have a game on Steam called Fireplace. And it seems like it's literally just a fireplace simulator. Which, like, when Netflix put out a 4K and the 1080p fireplace video where you could just watch 12 hours of a fireplace on your TV, it made sense. When it's an animated video game, it stops making any sense. While I will admit there probably are some people that only really work off of their one TV, so their computer monitor is their TV. I could easily just on YouTube or on Netflix still stream a video of a real fireplace versus a badly animated one. And paying right now, Fireplace is 20% off for $3.99. Like, who in their right mind would spend that money on Steam for such a minimal screensaver function? Like, at the very least, they should give it up and have a collection of things available. Might as well freeze and kill this one. Let's see, we have somebody on the chat. Hey man, did you hear about SawCon? SAWCON. No, I haven't heard about any convention called SawCon. Last con I heard anything about was there was like a bomb threat at MythCon that caused the place to be evacuated. I wouldn't be surprised if a significant amount of all kinds of conventions all over the world have certain like bomb threats and issues like that. But if you want to let me know in the chat what happened, I'm certainly willing to hear. I'd like to know what SawCon is. Is it? My first thought would be that it is a sci-fi convention, horror convention based on the movie Saw. But I don't think the Saw series is good enough to justify a movie convention, so I don't know what else it could be. And I have half a fear that this is just a setup to do something like a Ligma joke. But if it isn't, if something actually did here, I'd be certainly willing to learn. Oh. Let's see, is this game in English? No, we have a Chinese game. Today is the day that the Chinese-US tariffs go into effect, so the trade war has now been enacted. So yeah, maybe some good will come out of it, but almost certainly not. We've got a game on Steam called Dotline. Man, this mouse. Oh. It's not like a hardware acceleration issue too. Unless there was an internal hardware acceleration on my mouse that... Yeah. You know what? I have had two buttons on the side of my mouse, and I've never configured them to do anything at all. Come to think of it, yeah, that's really ridiculous. Why didn't I program them to speed up or slow down the mouse acceleration as a first step, or do anything at all? It's like I use the mouse wheel all the time, but yeah, I don't do anything else. That's why I've never really wanted to get one of the ones that had like 20 buttons on them, because I never could think, what in the world would I do with 20 buttons? I'm not some speed player.
I must consider.
Let's see, did that help anything? Not really. Just peeled off a couple of stickers. So it's supposed to make it smoother to slide on, but their stickiness, the glue on them is coming off. So they're bouncing around. That may have improved it a little bit. So yeah, we have this game called Dotline on Steam, minimalistic puzzle game. I've seen games like this where you are spinning shapes to try and make connections, or spinning pipes. It's too simplistic, too much like a cell phone game to really justify being on Steam, I think. 42 Steam achievements makes the game really suspicious. It's $2.99 with no discount. It has 70 standard levels plus 9 bonus levels. It probably is a complete game, but it's a really expensive cell phone game on Steam. And for that reason I can ignore Dotline. And let's instead of having somebody respond in the chat because they're not, let's just type in SawCon and see what happens in the Google. Yeah, it seems like it is just a Ligma joke is the first thing. Yep, it's just a Ligma joke. Just an idiot on the chat. That's what I figured. Moving on. Let's see. Tragic Master says, "What are we googling?" I was googling this SawCon, SAWCON, that the person in the chat is setting up. It's a Ligma joke. It's stupid. It's an idiot on the chat trolling.
I must consider.
And that's what I figured it was. Alright, we have a game on Steam called Reptiloids 2? Third person action game. Let's see what this is. This seems like it's probably an asset flip game where you're playing as this long-haired blonde girl in a red tank top with red high heel shoes. She has a stop sign, there's a shield, and a baseball bat with a nail through it. And then she's in a train station fighting not zombies, but what you would, but alien humanoid reptiles. So it's like a simplistic hack and slash, also with punching and brawling. It kind of looks like a even worse version of Let It Die, which is coming to PC and is free to play, so I'm not sure why you would play this game instead. There's work here. Somebody has done some effort to try to make an asset flip game that is a little bit better quality, but it still is not at a high enough level of quality where you'd call it a game worth playing. Honestly, the concept's not terrible though. If you took half of the zombie games that exist in the world and said, okay, we're now going to make them reptile creatures or dinosaurs or something else. Let's play the warrior. That's the other one I need to play. Right, warrior, yeah. Like, a little bit more variety that way. Elves, fantasy, like all of that would be fine, and I don't mind if they did introduce a idea of a game with a blonde-haired girl that would work nicely as a comparison to the Lara Croft brunette-haired girl. There is certainly an option there. Like, who is that? That actress slash porn star that was in several movies in the 70s. Forgotten her name, but Was she in Tank Girl? Yeah. Well, my point there was I was gonna say, yeah, there's room for, like, who is the blonde woman of video games? If somebody told you who's the blonde lady of video games, I'm not sure there's a generic response anybody would say. I think you'd probably fall down to maybe the girl in Uncharted, and I can't even name that character.
Run for it.
Let's see. Tragic Master, Pamela Anderson. That is exactly who I was thinking about. Thank you, Tragic Master. Yeah, I'm surprised that there isn't a Pamela Anderson style character in video games. Since allegedly that is what the people in the United States like, or at least it was what was promoted quite a bit. Yeah, Tragic Master also said, I'm playing Warrior 2, just dirty ratted a druid's tog, he conceded. Yeah, my Warrior deck is it's a HOS Replay Quest Warrior deck that completely fails for the fact that I don't have the quest. So I'm just playing it because I'm too lazy basically to go back and build a new HOS Replay deck. Reptiloids is in one of these bundles, and that kind of sucks. Yeah. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Apparently you can change the character's hairstyle too, because now I'm seeing gameplay. Why was I saying she was blonde? Maybe I wasn't looking tight enough. They have her as a brunette.
What now?
Yeah, she is a blonde in some screenshots, and she's a brunette in others. Or maybe it's just the lighting. Anyways, I'm talking too much about reptoids too. It is a clearly joke game. Reptiloids 1 came out February 7th, 2018, so less than a year ago. And this developer has just this long list of mixed and negative reviewed games.
Nice little raptors.
But it does give me some slight interest in thinking about going back and playing Let It Die now that it's coming on Steam. But that's not much of a game either to play. Hey, the Patreon thing works. There was some PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3 Pamela Anderson game based on one of her shows, but I'm surprised that her, Elvira, the country singer blonde characters, I'm surprised none of those people got games. I'm really surprised too, like when you think about Britney Spears and some of them, that they don't sell their likenesses either to video games. You'd think that there would be a whole echo chamber and system there of having people sell their likenesses to video games. The one instance I think is that GTA photo referenced a character in GTA and got sued for it. And it's sad, the only people that sell their licenses to video games, their likenesses to video games, is people like PewDiePie. Like, PewDiePie sold a couple of games. H3H3 has upset people by having a game that uses their likenesses and just not really doing anything with their main channel other than advertising that game after a long silence. Should have played that first.
Run for it!
Really all I'm doing right now is trying to get as much cards played as possible. See, we have a game on Steam called Logistical 2 Belgium. It says it's an open world strategy puzzle game where you transport different cargoes to complete all the towns throughout the country. So it really is a logistics game, and it really is just a bunch of maps with a bunch of highways and routes. I feel like you might be playing a game like this just to help some Belgium version of FedEx find better routes to deliver their actual goods in the real world. Apparently there's a whole collection of logistical games you could buy for 21% off to equal $138.57. This game alone, if you just wanted to play the Belgian version, is $8.49. Way too expensive. And not fun looking either. You'd have to practically be autistic, in all honesty, to find that entertaining. We've got a game on Steam called Pixel Girl, which looks like an NES game. As a blue-haired girl in some kind of Japanese RPG styled game, doing some punching on a practice dummy. Yeah, it looks like what it is probably just Zelda, but it's got a lot of side-scrolling instead of top-down, so it's not the Legend of Zelda, it's some weird mix. The problem with this game is everything is in English. Well, now everything's in simplified Chinese in the video I'm watching, so it's hard to get a feel on a lot of things, like how the writing is. It has a fighting combo system, which seems odd for the style of game. Seems like it has a lot going on behind its fighting combo system, but it still looks very simplistic and very much like a simplistic game hiding behind nostalgia. Oh, I guess they're establishing a RPG as an Asian RPG, since this is a Chinese game. This is almost certainly a Chinese game that would have never come out of China, and is just a, maybe not even, you would say, a low effort, just a lack of video game design knowledge. Like, a lack of understanding in history. And you could really understand that too if you have been a Chinese citizen who has not been allowed to see any of the video games, legally at least, to see any of the video games that have come out for decades. You probably wouldn't know the history of how games are and how people would like them, or you just get little bits of it, and those little bits that you get are or just a little off. And that's exactly what I'm saying here, is a game that seems to lack what we would call a common sense to video game design. Well, Pixel Girl is 30% off for $3.49. I don't think I can wishlist it though. It's just too simple of a game and too weird. It's not something that I would say is a hidden gem as much as it is just a weird side experiment. Let's go into that. Again, I'm just trying to play cards, I think. Next game we have on Steam is called Virtual Fighting Championship, VFC. Looks like it's a VR game, but it actually looks pretty good for a VR game because it's fully animated people that they're not moving very smoothly. So you're seeing people that are just putting up their left hand to guard and putting up their right hand to guard. And then one girl is just dancing. It seems like several of them are dancing. And you can poke people in the eyes too. I don't get this. It half looks like a fighting game and it half looks like a joke idea. This might be the beginning of a new generation of punch-out style games on VR. Unfortunately, it's only multiplayer, so that might explain the dancing around. And it's multiplayer VR, English only. Early access, 10% off for $17.99. And that is confusing, certainly, about the awkward movements, as it is probably breaking down the very smooth human-like movements that a human would do into some very basic, are you guarding your face with your left hand, are you guarding your body with your left hand, and then sending that over to the over the internet. And it seems like there's only 3 characters in the entire game. I'd like to see something like this succeed and be a lot smoother, but it is also the first game from this developer. And it definitely needs some work. But interesting nonetheless. Of course, it's a VR game, so I'll just skip it.
Job's done.
We have a game called Cat's Epic Puzzles. That's really all I need to say. It's 30% off for $1.39. It's yet another slide puzzle, cheap effort, low effort game. Let's come over here. We have a game called Hell Shooter. Hell Shooter is an old school first-person shooter game. I would say it's really just an asset flip. In fact, it's so much an asset flip that I recognize the Unity asset map that they're using, because it's the exact same map, it seems, as Bowman versus Zombies or Bowman versus Skeletons. So this really is probably a complete asset, like one thing you get off the Unity asset store and you just put a name on it, and then that's all they're doing. Putting it up for sale for $1. 26 Steam achievements, 10% off for 89 cents.
The calm before the storm.
Here's an update. Like, update 1.01 added a crosshair and added a hint to the loading screen. So like basic things there that should not have been missing before you released your game on Steam. I kind of wonder, maybe there are some people that try to develop games in the alpha stage on Steam in early access, and they really do in their hearts believe that they can release an awful alpha early access game on Steam, and that they can just keep on working on it and people will stick with them and people won't complain. But that's really not the case at all. Like, you really only get one first impression. People are not going to stick with your alpha early access game. And that's just no way to make anything. Speaking of other low effort games, I would assume this is a low effort game. Into Strip Shot. Past levels of strip girls like in the days of old school arcade machines. Aim, shoot, and dress girls in anime style. 90 varied, highly replayable levels await. What is this game really? Where's the actual gameplay element? It is weird looking. I'm seeing some very basic polygon shapes and some basic, what I'd say is Unity video things. Okay, so you've got a blue ball that you start at the beginning, and you have to land it basically in a mini golf style, kind of Arkanoid style, at a green target. And when you land it on the green target, the image in the background becomes more easily viewable and you're given a score. As you move through the level, you go progressively through a collection of what I assume is stolen 3D assets. Here's in the video they're showing a full topless girl, anime lady. Still questionable whether they should be doing that, even if you are putting it on Steam and labeling it as adult only. Like, I'm not sure if you need to put the video and have uncensored video in that case. Like, I don't even think that's good marketing, frankly. Like, what they should be doing, if I was making a game like this, I would say put a black bar on there, uncensored in game. Let's see. Or something as obvious that says buy the game to see this. Like, I wouldn't give away the one selling point. This game also has 100 achievements, so you know what it is. It's an achievement game. It's 20% off for $1.59. We still are in a weird point where no real high quality sex games have been allowed on Steam since Negligee. I don't know if that's because of just randomness or if that's because of some other issue. Let's see. Deal 1 damage to everybody. And then 1 damage to everybody. And then another 1 damage to everybody. And then another 1 damage to everybody. And then end the turn. We have a game on Steam called Doll of Resurrection. It says this game represents the abandonment of objects against humans.
Lightning can strike twice.
What I believe this is, if I'm not mistaken, let me go back to the beginning of this video and just see. Yes, it is playing as, this is actually kind of funny, a deflated sex doll. that is crawling around an asset flip world. So they flattened out like a rubber doll, and it's crawling around the world. And in this world, there's a bunch of flamethrowers and pits. And if the flame hits it, it dissolves away. If you fall down a pit, you lose, and you have to start over again. And this is clearly a troll game, and you really can't call it anything but that. Also, I suspect this is a game that ends kind of abruptly. I bet there's less than an hour of gameplay in the whole thing. There's a screenshot at some point. This doll turns into a real human and gets inflated of some sort and starts walking around. But yeah, this is just an asset flip game. This is a joking asset flip game. Now, this actually would be a pretty funny sequence in like some Duke Nukem experience. I could see in Duke Nukem Forever there being a sequence like that and it being funny for about 5 to 20 minutes, but making an entire game after this. This is an English simplified Chinese game. Surprise, surprise. And at a certain point, you kind of do need to wonder if some of these low effort games are designed just to flood markets and irritate people trying to shop for good quality products. In the way a lot of the Russian troll posts are often designed to just irritate people and sow a frustration amongst people. Doll of Resurrection is 30% off for $2.79. I don't see any reason why anybody would buy that. We have a game on Steam called Cute Girls. Lazy name again. This is the collection of girls that we've seen before in a couple other games where I don't know if somebody animated these girls by hand. It seems like they're not used a lot. They are way out of proportion body-wise. They have like the narrowest of waists and super wide hips and like busts that really wouldn't be as big as they are considering the waist body size. It's literally the people would snap in half. They'd literally break their back. It's the same girls over and over again. They've been in every game. They're pre-programmed to dance around. It was a fashion show. It was like the previous game was called something like Anime Girls Fashion Show. Now it's just called Cute Girls, and they're on the beach dancing around, it seems. And it doesn't really feel like they've done much. They're all in bikinis. This is a VR game too. 20% off for $7.19. It's in English only. But I don't... It's not even the same developer as the previous game, according to Steam, but I fairly suspect that it is the same troll developer, or low effort developer. Let's see. Yeah, there's nothing more to say about that game. Let's go ahead and close that. Two damage if it survives. Destroy a damaged minion. Let's see. Let's go ahead and play this. jam. We have a game on Steam called Park the Car. It looks like it's a cell phone game. There's literally something on every corner of the screen as far as an accelerator, a brake, a steering wheel, throttles, like horns, like ridiculously more things on screen that you would need to drive a car than you would actually have driving most cars. And it's, yeah, this is literally just a cell phone game ported to Steam about parking cars. It's 25% off for 74 cents. Again, in something like Duke Nukem, a small sequence as a joke where you had to park a car and park it very well is a cool idea. But in reality, when you start to break it down a little bit more, doing that more than once is going to be super annoying for no reason. And even parking the car even 2 or 3 times in a game is too much. We also have a game called Sequence Robot Programming Simulator. Looks like a Windows 3.1 game, so I'm gonna reject it very quickly. 25% off for 74 cents. Close that tab. And we've gone about an hour and 10 minutes. And even though we have managed to only get one thing done, we're actually in a relatively good place. Like, all I need to do is play probably one more priest game and then just play one more warrior card. So if somehow I got really lucky and could play a warrior card in the priest games, I'd get both of these done. That's going to be it for this recording though. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.